My name's Joyce Northey. I'm an independent producer director in Melbourne. I originally wanted to get into film because I would write short stories when I was a kid, and I worked out I really loved the visual medium. And then as I got older, telling those short stories in that format was going to be the best way I could tell them, I think. And my dad owned a video camera, and I used to ask if I could borrow it. And yeah, it was just going to be the best way to tell my stories. And I think the film medium is just, between cinematography, sound, editing, acting, everything put together is just makes it the most enjoyable experience for myself. So yeah. So I got into film in high school. At my high school, they had a media class and a fantastic media teacher, and I took all the media classes that I could and would love going around filming things. And eventually in 2013, I moved to Melbourne. In 2014, I took up a TAFE course at Footscray City Films, which was around the corner from where I lived at the time, and that helped me make a lot of connections in Melbourne. And it was, just a really, really, that kick-started it for me. And through that, I met a lot of people and got onto The Legend of Ben Hall, which started off as a short film and then became a feature film, and met a lot of contacts through that, and met some other contacts through different film universities, different film courses there, and that all those contacts really have helped get me to where I am today. But yeah, I'd say it all kick-started at Footscray City Films for me in Melbourne. So the first film that I ever made was called Absent, which I made, this is the first proper short film I ever made. I made it as my Year 12 SAT in 2009 for Year 12 media class, and I mean, here we are in 2019. That's actually a film I'd like to remake properly, I guess, 10 years later, to show where I've come in 10 years from bad storytelling and bad cinematography. But that was a good starting point, and it's a really, it's good to look back on what you've done and then see what you can do now. So that'd be a great one to remake, I think. So each and every different work will have a different vision to it, depending on the genre and if it's a short film or a music video. But I definitely try and bring elements of the films that have inspired me, whether that be Hollywood or whether that be Melbourne independent artists or Australian filmmakers. But there's there might be different technical elements that I'll try and bring to it, or do something I haven't done before. I've noticed in music videos, I like to work through photos and dreams, and I've done a few things with water before. I always like those elements to that. Then there's certain things I bring into each one that could be similar, but I would honestly say, because every single thing is different, and depending on the form, whether it be short film, music video, corporate, whether it be showreel, it's going to be a bit different. And I try and change them up every time, depending on the thing, but they'll always have some sort of message to them, hopefully, as well. And I think that's whatever that message be is what I bring into my vision. My favorite film that I've made so far, it would maybe be a film I did in 2018 called Conflicted. I might be saying this one just because I had a really fun time making it on set, and it was just a nice micro short. And other ones I've done in the past, it's interesting looking back on some things that you love at the time and you don't love later, and you go back and forth. But I say that one just because it was a nice, easy micro short that I've made, and it actually ended up, we put it in, we made it for a festival in the US, film competition in the US called Aperture Light This Location competition. and we put the short film in, and you had to put in a short film, a behind-the-scenes video, and a lighting plan. And whilst there was a lot of great films in there. I think some fantastic first-year entries because it's in its first year. And but we ended up winning Best Behind the Scenes Video, which was really cool and really unexpected, and won a lot of great prizes through Aperture as well. And I think that film, and maybe because we got a lot of great prizes through it as well, is definitely sticks out in my mind as one of the ones I'm really happy with. So yeah.
You are sick. Get back in your cell. I'm not sick. You're sick. You put me in this jacket. I had to. You need to be confined. I'm no dog to be kept in a cage. Who are you to keep me? I am a trained doctor of psychiatry. We both know why you are behind the bars of this ward. She didn't die because of me. It wasn't me. The sooner you learn to accept the truth about your past, the sooner your future here will be brighter. My future here will be brighter. The darkness will consume us all.
So, filmmakers that inspire me, I'd have to say that the top three, starting at number one, this guy, not so much a filmmaker, but just what he's done in the US and his legacy, Walt Disney. Of course, now, and Disney's just such a huge corporation, but I always respected Walt Disney just as the businessman that he was and the producer that he was and the ideas that he had with animation back in the day. I start with him because he's the oldest of the three. The second one is Alfred Hitchcock. I've always loved Alfred Hitchcock and Alfred Hitchcock's movies, and I think I tend to try and have a small cameo in my things these days as a little nod to Alfred Hitchcock. He's, his films still stand the test of time, 50, 60 years later, even more. So it's having him as one of my idols. Whilst I haven't done a lot of horror stuff yet, there's definitely stuff I want to do in the future. And yeah, I've always looked up to him through my whole filmmaking career. And the third one would have to be James Cameron. James Cameron to me is just a mastermind filmmaker. Whilst I enjoy his older films more than his newer ones still have good merit, and I always like that he's pushing technological boundaries. And other filmmakers are learning that through him as well, which is always great. So James Cameron's, his films, whilst he hasn't made as many as say, a Spielberg, I don't think you need to make, I think like James Cameron, he doesn't make them year after year after year. He takes his time with them, and I think that's why, whilst he doesn't have a huge amount of feature films, those feature films have always done really well, and really well in the box office, and that's really shown over the years. I have to say the top three films that inspire me, or at least the ones I still watch the most. The first one is a 1993 Western called Tombstone. To me, I've always loved Westerns, and that particular Western just has the perfect mix of action, drama, I think, and there's just some brilliant performances in that from Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer, and I can't remember the director's name of that because apparently he was sort of a ghost director, and Kurt Russell was potentially the director of it. So that's an interesting case, but it's just got a lot of great cinematography, a lot of great pacing, there was great edit in that, and that's always been one of my favorites. The second one I'm going to say is a Scorsese masterpiece, which is Shutter Island. I've always loved Shutter Island because I always love not only crime thrillers, but yeah, just thrillers in general. And that is such a masterpiece to me in one of the genres that I just love so much. Sometimes you could guess what was happening, but realistically kept you on the edge of your seat. And I'd say the Scorsese DiCaprio combo is a winning combo for me, and that's always been one of my favorite thrillers. Just so well done, and has always inspired me. And my third favorite, and I'm gonna say this one because, you know, the day and age room where a lot of superhero movies are around. I'm gonna say my favorite superhero movie that inspired me and still is my favorite even after the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the Tobey Maguire 2002 Spider-Man. I think that really, whilst there was the X-Men films and a few different ones, that to me really kicked in the new age of the filmmaking with superheroes, and what Sam Raimi did with 1 and 2. Whilst 3 wasn't as well received, it still had some good parts to it, but 1 and 2, number 1 especially, is just always stuck with me. And I guess growing up too, like it came out I think when I was 10 or 11, so I've definitely got nostalgic memories to that one. That one's always sort of stood the test of time with me, and Spider-Man's always been my favorite superhero character as well. So yeah, definitely that's number 3. So the Australian film industry now is, it's in a difficult place, obviously. One with firstly government changes and budget cuts to the film industry in Australia definitely isn't helping. But secondly, it's hard. There's so many big Hollywood blockbusters and franchises now, and I think those are the movies that are drawing a lot of people into the cinemas at the moment. Or, of course, now there's Netflix, then there's a lot of different ways to watch things, which is always great, and of course YouTube. But if I was talking about Australian feature films, I think it's hard to get those in cinemas and getting a lot of people going to watch them and really making a lot of money. You can definitely make a great film. It's just there's a lot of the franchises that are taking away from getting people's butts on seats at cinemas to watch those films. But in saying that, there's a lot of ways to get your work out there still, which is great. And now more than ever, it's easier to get your work out there. But between budget cuts and big Hollywood franchises and other film industries that are thriving, I think Australia could really work on getting the film industry big and creating a lot of jobs. We just need people to support it. So at the moment, I'm working on a lot of music videos. I love music videos because they're my 2 favorite things, basically, both film and music together. And I think artists come to you with the music and their ideas for it too, and it's just such great collaboration. But also, I feel like you can really push creative ideas in music videos as well, which I've always loved, and really take it to different places than you can do obviously in films as well. But they're also nice and easy and really fun to make. So there's music videos. I'm working on some show reels at the moment. The short film I mentioned earlier, Absent, which I made in 2009, I'm hoping to make again later this year / next year as a fun project. I think 10 years later, to see how far I've come in 10 years. And there's a few corporate jobs, a couple in Melbourne and a couple in Shepparton. And whilst I'm really still quite young in the filmmaking world, I think I've been doing it for 5 years now, but I still feel like it's very much still starting out in it all. They're definitely adding more corporate work and more show reels is good, and I'm looking forward to working on all of that.
Congratulations! Everybody's gone, and you're on your own. On your bound to stay. I preach my word from the distance, so nobody can get to me.
So I guess I've done 9 music videos to this point in time, and whilst I love each of them for their own different reasons, I'm going to say there's a band called Chasing Lana I've done 4 for. My favorite one's called Fade Away, just because I love that song and what I was able to do with that particular music video. But one I'm really proud of recently that is called Congratulations by Bridge the Border. So we sent that into Clipped Festival in Sydney, which is a music video festival, and that got to play in their exhibition there. So that was a cool first step I'd never put music videos in a competition before, but that was a cool thing to have it playing in their exhibition area there. And one that's just dropped is called Confidence by Terror. So they're a local pop punk band in Melbourne who I've always really loved their music. And we got together with that band throughout April and made that, and it's just dropped sort of end of June, and that's been a really fantastic, really happy with that video and that simple idea of the song, with a really great message that it's got about finding your own confidence in yourself and not having to rely on those close to you who might let you down sometimes. So really happy with the video and the concept that we came up with for that. It had a guest vocalist on it, David De La Hoz from Belhaven. So we've used him in the song as the older brother figure, and Cassie, the lead singer of Terror, as the younger sister, and those guys together made a really great combo, and it was really great working with them, acting as actors in that music video. So really excited about that now that that's out, and I'd say that'd be the other one that springs to mind at the moment. To me, what makes a great production company name is just something that's easy to remember. My production company name's Bell Productions. I don't think that's the easiest thing to remember or what rolls off the tongue the most, but it was a name that I liked when I made it. But something like Disney, that was his last name. Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox. I mean, I'm naming the big Hollywood studios here, but to me, maybe because they've been around so long, but they're all easy to remember. Amblin Entertainment, Steven Spielberg's company, I always sort of remember that, but I'm not sure if I know what exactly makes a great production company name, or studio name. But to me, I'd say it'd have to be something simple that rolls off the tongue. So when casting, for me, I already know a lot of actors, which is great because sometimes I'll think through people I've worked with before or people who I haven't been able to direct before but I've met on other film sets or other projects. So what goes through my mind first is, do I know someone who's the right fit for this, who I know might be easy to work with? But I also like meeting new people, of course, and working with new people. So, there's definite places like, Star Now, Showcast, that make it very easy to find actors and to see their photos, to watch their show reels. So I definitely go to those as well, but obviously in certain things it's good to have an audition process as well, and just get your film or whatever it be out there as much as possible, so you have the most applicants as possible and can find the best casting choice for that. So that would be my casting process. So when casting things, there's so many great actors out there who might not have a big name or might only be starting out, and I think there's so much good talent out there for people who might not have even had a role in something before. And I think, it's really worth giving people a shot, or at least an audition, and give them a chance to really work their craft and shine. Yeah. I think film is a really challenging career choice. There's a lot of difficulty to it, but I think it's something that if you really love, then you'll really stick with. And it's definitely something that I love and can see myself doing throughout the rest of my life. But there are difficulties to it, and you have difficult encounters. And I think the great thing about film is so collaborative, such a collaborative process. But at the same time, not everyone sees eye to eye on that as well. So, there's people who are very easy to work with, and you get along on the same page, and you can make some really great stuff together. And sometimes you butt heads with people, and that's just a part of it. And I think that can be one of the more difficult things to deal with when working, with someone above the line, not seeing eye to eye on something, and then coming to, hopefully coming to a compromise on something. But also, obviously, in the Melbourne independent industry, and speaking as an independent, it's obviously not always having the money there to make what you want to be able to make. And there's pros and cons to that. Pros is that you get creative and you really work on what you've got and what you can get from that. And a con, obviously, is sometimes it can affect your vision, but you just try and work with that as best as you can with the budget that you've got. I really love Australia, and I really see myself hopefully building up the Australian industry and staying in Australia. I've got all my family and friends in Victoria and, New South Wales, Canberra. But to me, whilst it's important for me to stay around sort of my family, I really love Melbourne and really want to build up Melbourne and the Australian industry as much as possible. I think there is a chance I could always go overseas, and I love that some Australian filmmakers and actors go overseas and make a big name for themselves and then come back to Australia and give back, and I think that's a really great way to go about it as well. But at the moment, I see myself definitely staying around Melbourne for as long as possible. For any aspiring filmmakers out there, I really say just get with your friends and go out and make things, because firstly, your first film you make or the first thing you make, it might be great, but the chances are it's not going to be that good. And I'm just speaking from my experience. I look back on the first things I made, and they've got some good things to them, but I don't love them a lot. But the only way to really to get better is to really just get out there and do it, and you'll just keep getting better and better and better and better. And you look back on some of your work and you're like, oh, I love that idea I did then. I'd love to try that again later. And just get out there and make friends, make contacts. There's so many people doing film who have a love for film and might be in the same place as you and just want to get together and make something. So just get out there and do it. So I'd just like to thank anyone watching this at the moment. Thank you for taking interest, and thank you to both Dia and Benny at The Independents for interviewing me today. I think it's really great what they're doing for the local, independent industry. So thank you very much.